Welcome to Creamer Media's Resources Watch, a weekly video roundup of the events and people making and shaping the news in the mining industry. This week, Menar's MD believes South Africa will overcome its rail and electricity problems. Mining needs a truth and reconciliation approach to ESG, and critical metals for a low-carbon economy is being studied across 12 universities. Menar MD Vislat Bayaglu predicts that South Africa will overcome its rail transport and electricity availability issues, and that confidence in both Transnet and Eskom will be fully restored.
I think Transnet's problems can be solved, and I'm confident it will be solved because South Africa has got really great infrastructure in terms of rail. We have good infrastructure for iron ore line, manganese line, coal line, and the line that takes the chrome to Maputo and also to Richards Bay. We have the infrastructure, and as long as it's maintained, and Transnet is doing that currently, but there are ideas of like having third-party access, those kind of things. If they're implemented, it will be much easier for Transnet. But even as is, our lines are our railway lines are in good condition. What we are missing is locomotives, and then we're having issues with the cable theft, and also there's some leadership challenges in Transnet. But I think if industry supports the current CEO, Portia Darby, then it will be much easier to resolve the issues. But if the industry comes in, starts criticizing and talk about, look, okay, government must consider about like firing the CEO of Transnet, I don't think it will help. I think we need to be realistic. We need to work very closely because I, again, believe that Portia Darby has got South Africa in her heart, and the same applies to the mining industry. So I think the solution is between the top management of Transnet and the management of the mining companies in South Africa. But by talking and by collaborating, I think we can resolve the issues of Transnet. And I believe the same is going to happen with Eskom as well, because we will pass these stages of load shedding, and the same applies to Transnet. We will pass the stages of like having issues on the iron ore line or coal line or manganese line. Eventually we will win. We lost a little bit on the opportunity cost as industry, but at the end of the day, I think we will win these issues, and we will have the confidence again in both Transnet and Eskom.
Mining companies need to approach environmental, social, and governance principles on a truth and reconciliation footing, and be honest about where they are on a scale of 1 to 10.
I'm very wary of acronyms like ESG, which becomes buzzwords and are created by consulting companies and opportunities to create a lot of work for consultation. The fact that we are talking about ESG, environmental, social governance, is a recognition that we have done a dismal job in these three areas of environmental, social, and governance. So I think that's the first positive thing, that we've recognized that we've done a dismal job of environmental, social, and governance, specifically in the mining sector. So if we look at the mining sector and the history over the last century in South Africa, it has been self-centered and largely selfish from an investor perspective. And very little recognition and emphasis has been on the environmental and the social and the governance side. Let's be frank, mining has largely been built in South Africa on the back of black male migrant labor, slave labor, if I may. And if you look at the emergence of hostels, male hostels, that still exist today, that is unacceptable from a humanitarian perspective. So mining companies need to do what South Africa did post-apartheid, which was called the truth and reconciliation, to get to grips of what happened before, where we are present, and how do we move into the future. So I believe that the mining sector and mining companies need to start doing what I will call a truth and reconciliation in this area of environmental, social, and governance, and be very honest of where you are on a scale of 1 to 10, if that's the benchmark, of where you are in the environmental area.
a consortium across a dozen South African universities has the spotlight on critical metals for a low-carbon future.
We're a centre for excellence for the integration of minerals and energy research analysis. And so we're a consortium across 12 universities. It's jointly run by myself at WITS, but the major centre is run by my colleague, Professor Nikki Wagner, out of UJ. And we support something like 70 research projects across the universities each year, looking at things like how to find more of certain commodities, what the structural and geological controls are, through trying to understand where the metals came from, how to understand better the geometallurgy of how to get the metals out of commodities. So we cover research really on the whole value chain in terms of extraction and mining. We don't do the mine to market. We stop at the sort of the processing side of things. And we give students the opportunity to do an MSc, a PhD, or a postdoc. And we're upskilling the population of geologists who will meet the needs of the future, particularly understanding the fourth industrial revolution and the handling of big data. So that's what we do.
For mining news as it breaks, stay logged on to miningweekly.com and register for our free daily newsletter.